Virology Chapter 1 Flashcards. Number 1. Proposal developed by the World Health Organization and United Nations mission for Ebola response with the goal of isolating and treating this amount of cases and burying this amount of Ebola victims safely within this many days beginning October 1st until December 1st, 2014. 70-70-60 plan. 2. A serious viral disease caused by the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, in which the T helper lymphocytes are destroyed and opportunistic illnesses occur in the patient. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. 3. A genetically programmed form of cell death may be induced during viral infection, allowing for the removal of infected cells in the body. Apoptosis. 4. Any type of pneumonia of an unknown cause. Atypical pneumonia. 5. A bacteriophage community that forms a defensive layer on a cell that prevents the cell from being attacked by invading bacteria. Bacteriophage adhering to host mucus. 6. Use of bacteriophages to cure bacterial infections in humans. It has seen renewed interest in treating infections caused by multi-drug resistant bacteria called superbugs. Bacteriophage therapy. 7. The standard protocol for treatment of Ebola patients. Intravenous fluid hydration, correction of electrolyte abnormalities, nutritional support, and critical care management for respiratory and renal failure. Best available supportive care. An interdisciplinary field that combines computer science, statistics, mathematics, and engineering in order to develop methods and tools to analyze and intercept nucleic acid and protein sequence information. Bioinformatics. 9. An insecticide produced by an organism, the bacterium Bacillus thuringiensis, naturally produces this to defend itself from consumption by insects in the environment. The gene for this or control agent is expressed in a biological system in large amounts and manufactured for use in crop applications to destroy intended insect pests. Bioinsecticide. 10. A rash mainly covering the face and extremities as opposed to the entire body. Variola virus, causative agent of smallpox, causes this. Centrifugal rash. 11. A porcelain filter that retained and concentrated non-filterable bacteria but allowed viruses in a liquid such as tap water to flow through. The use of these became a standard practice to remove bacteria from drinking water after 1884. Chamberlain porcelain ultrafilter. 12. Severe congenital malformations in a fetus caused when certain bloodborne viruses, e.g. cytomegalovirus, measles, or Zika virus, cross the placenta to cause an infection in the developing fetus. The infection causes structural anomalies in the fetus, such as microcephaly. Congenital effects or defects. 13. A general term for the inflammation of the conjunctiva. Conjunctivitis. 14. Measures taken to contain respiratory secretions. Cover mouth and nose with a tissue when coughing or sneezing. Dispose of tissue in a waste receptacle. Perform hand hygiene and cough or sneeze into the elbow, not the hands. Cough etiquette. 15. The selective slaughter of animals used as a means of controlling population size or reducing the size of a pathogen reservoir. Cull. 16. Immune system over-response toward a pathogen or cytokine signaling immune cells such as macrophages and Th lymphocytes travel to the site of infection, causing damage to the body that results in multiple organ failure. E.g., the 1918 influenza A virus caused damage to the lungs, Ebola virus damages bodily organs. Cytokine storm. 17. Small proteins released by immune defensive cells that affect other cells and the adaptive immune response to an infectious agent. Cytokines. 18. Transmission of a pathogen through physical contact between an infected person and a susceptible person. direct transmission. 19. A newly discovered virus that is the cause of a viral disease that is increasing in incidence or has the potential to increase in incidence. Emerging or new virus. 20. An infectious disease that is constantly present in a specific area or region. Endemic. 21. An enzyme that hydrolyzes specific bonds in the murin or peptoglycan layer of the cell wall of a bacterium that allows bacteriophages to escape or be released from its bacterial host. Endolysin. 22. An experimental treatment that involves the introduction of genes into a person's cells to replace or compensate for defective genes in a person's body that are responsible for a disease or medical problem. Genes can be carried and delivered by customized vectors such as viruses. Gene therapy. 23. The principle formulated by Louis Pasteur and proven by Robert Koch in the 19th century that microorganisms cause infectious diseases, discounting the theory of spontaneous generation that was accepted at the time. Germ theory of disease. 24. Autoimmune disease characterized by rapid onset muscle weakness due to an autoimmune reaction involving the attack of the peripheral nervous system. Guillain-Barré syndrome. 25. Air passed through a glass fiber medium that traps 99.97% of particles that are 0.3 micrometers or larger. These are used to decontaminate air in vertical laminar flow hoods used during virus research, to remove allergens in air by vacuum cleaners, and to decontaminate air in specific patient rooms or isolation wards in healthcare settings. HEPA, capital H-E-P-A, filtered air, HEPA filtered air. 26. A gene sequence that is similar to a gene sequence in another species, both structurally and in evolutionary origin. Homolog. 27. The living cell in which a virus is dependent upon for its replication. Host cell. 28. Buildup of fluid in the cavities of the brain. Hydrocephalus. 29. Postulates that the first organic chemical structures that evolved into viruses were formed at warm alkaline thermal vents or fissures, long narrow openings found in the ocean seafloor around 3.7 billion years ago. Hydrothermal origin hypothesis. 30. A case of communicable disease that has been introduced to a population by a person outside of the population, such as introduction of a disease into the United States from a person who has recently arrived from another region where the disease occurs naturally. Imported case. 31. Epidemiological term that describes the initial stage or time period of an infectious disease that represents the time between infection with a virus or other pathogen and the onset of symptoms. These can vary in length. The infected individual is often contagious during this time of a viral illness. Incubation period. 32. Spread of a pathogen through a contaminated surface or object, food, water, air, or insect vectors such as mosquitoes or rodents. Indirect transmission. 33. Caused by a prion, viroid, virus, or other type of microbe, such as bacterium or parasite. Infectious disease. 34. This is not specific to a particular pathogen. It is a fast response that depends on a group of proteins and phagocytic cells to quickly destroy pathogens. Innate immune response. 35. An artificial respirator in the shape of a cylindrical steel chamber or tank and containing pumped air, causing the lungs of a patient to expand, used from the 1930s to the 1950s to help victims of poliomyelitis in breathing. Iron lung. 36. A set of procedures by which a specific organism, typically bacteria, can be associated as the cause of a specific infectious disease. Koch's postulates. 37. A common single-celled ancestor from which all living organisms on Earth have evolved or descended from. Last universal common ancestor, or LUCA, L-U-C-A. 38. A process in which the viral DNA, provirus, becomes integrated into the host DNA and the proviral DNA replicates silently along with the cellular DNA. No infectious viruses are produced and no visible disease symptoms occur. Latency. 39. 39. Where animals are purchased and then butchered for consumption. Live markets. 40. A bacteriophage infection whereby the virus infects the host and integrates its genome into that of its host. The host cell is not destroyed, but is used to continuously make copies of the integrated host viral DNA. Lysogenic infection. 41. A bacteriophage infection that results in the lysis of the host cell membrane and destruction of an infected cell during the release of new progeny phages at the end of its replication cycle. Lytic infection. 42. A rare and aggressive form of skin cancer associated with polyomavirus infection. Merkel cell carcinoma. 43. A relatively new genetic strategy based on technical advances in sequencing protocols used to analyze the large genomic DNA fragments of bacteria, often containing bacterial 16S rRNA genes or viral genetic material recovered from environmental samples. Metagenomics. 44. Condition whereby an infant's head is significantly smaller than expected, usually due to abnormal brain development. Zika virus infection is associated with this in newborns. Microcephaly. 45. Defines how an infectious disease is spread or passed on. Mode of transmission. 46. A case of an infectious disease that can be attributed to natural reservoirs of the pathogen in a particular region, in contrast to an imported case. Natural case. 47. Used in ventilation systems of quarantine isolation wards to limit the transfer of contaminated, unfiltered air to uncontaminated areas. Negative air pressure. 48. One organism cannot survive without the other organism. Certain viruses have co-evolved mutualistic interactions, such as the relationship between parasitoid wasps and polyadenoviruses. Obligatory mutualism. 49. A mutated form of a gene involved in normal cellular growth and that causes eukaryotic cells to become transformed or cancers. Oncogene. 50. A virus that is able to infect, replicate inside of, and kill cancer cells through a variety of mechanisms, such as inducing apoptosis or stimulating the adaptive immune system of the host to eliminate the cancer cells infected by this. Oncolytic virus. 51. An open reading frame in viral genomes that has no known cellular or viral homologs or known function. Capital O, capital R, capital F, A-N, or FAN. 52. Proposed by astronomer Sir Fred Hoyle, 1915 to 2001, and his PhD student, astrobiologist Nalin C. Wickramasinghe, 1939 to current, asserting that influenza viruses or other microorganisms present in meteor or comet dust of the universe are contaminating the Earth at multiple locations, causing pandemics. Panspermia hypothesis. 53. The process by which a viral infection causes a disease. Pathogenesis. 54. The first infected in a retrospective epidemiological investigation who is likely responsible for the spread of a particular infectious disease. Patient 0. 55. A neuraminidase inhibitor approved by the FDA in 2014 to treat infections caused by influenza A or B viruses. Paramivir. 56. A type of pneumonia caused by Pneumocystis jirovecii, formerly known as Pneumocystis carinii, primarily occurring in immunocompromised people living with HIV/AIDS. Pneumocytosis. 57. A method of quickly replicating a sequence-specific DNA a multiple number of cycles, e.g. 20 to 30 cycles, using a thermostable DNA polymerase in a microfuge tube or capillary. Can be used to detect in the presence of viral DNA. Polymerase chain reaction. 58. The points of the body where viruses can enter to cause infection, usually body openings or surfaces. The respiratory tract by far is the most common. Portal of entry. 59. The path by which viruses shed or leave their hosts. The most common of these are the gastrointestinal and respiratory tracts. Portal of exit. 60. Scientific journal articles that report original research by experts in the field. Such articles have undergone a formal review process referred to as peer review before the research is published, reported, and is indexed by databases such as PubMed or ScienceDirect. Primary literature. 61. A retroviral genome integrated into the DNA of a host cell. Provirus. 62. Region on the surface of a cell membrane that performs normal cellular functions but allows for receptor binding protein or viral attachment protein interactions required for viral entry into host cells. Receptor. 63. Where an infectious agent lives, grows, and multiplies. Reservoir. 64. RNA virus that inserts a DNA copy of its genome into the genome of a host cell. Retrovirus. 65. A microscopy method developed in 2006 in which viral components and relevant cellular structures are labeled with fluorescent probes to track the fate of individual virus particles or viral components inside of live host cells in real time. Single virus tracking. 66. An infected individual who transmits an infection to a significantly greater number of contacts than the average infected person. They play an extraordinary role in driving epidemics. They have been documented for HIV, SARS, smallpox, and monkeypox. Super spreaders. 67. Bacteria that cause life-threatening infections because they cannot be treated with the strongest antibiotics currently available. Superbugs. 68. Low blood platelet count caused by certain viral infections, including cytomegalovirus, varicella zoster virus, rubella virus, and Epstein-Barr virus infections. Thrombocytopenia. 69. Microscopy that transmits a narrow beam of electrons through a prepared ultra-thin specimen, creating detailed images of viruses, cells, and parts of host cells with a resolving power of about 0.1 nanometer, often used in the study of viruses. Transmission electron microscope. 70. Genes shared by many diverse groups of viruses with only distantly related homologs in cellular organisms. The genes encode for components of viral replication such as polymerases and helicases. Viral hallmark genes. 71. Proposes that viruses are significant biological agents involved in the mortality, death of aquatic microorganisms, and thus responsible for recycling carbon and other nutrients necessary to support living organisms of aquatic communities. Viral shunt hypothesis. 72. The scientific study of viruses. Virology. 73. Biological entities smaller than viruses that infect larger viruses, such as Sputnik, which infects mimivirus, a virus that infects amoebae, virophage. 74. The use of oncolytic viruses to kill cancer cells. Oncolytic viruses are able to selectively replicate inside of cancer cells and kill them, but do not harm neighboring normal cells. The oncolytic viruses also induce an immune response that attacks the virally infected cancer cells. Virotherapy. 75. An infectious agent consisting of DNA or RNA that is surrounded by a protein coat. In some cases, it is enveloped by a host-derived membrane. Virus.